Hi, Spring fans. Welcome to another installment of his Spring Tips. I'm recording this from a hotel in Geneva, Switzerland. I'm presenting at CERN. Yeah, that CERN. Tomorrow as part of the Vox Days CERN event. I haven't had the privilege of being here since 2017, so it's a real treat to be back here again. 2017, that's 7 years ago. That's about half of my public speaking career. A long time ago. Hopefully, the presentation I do tomorrow will be better than the one I did 7 years ago. I sure hope so. The events are they're part of a pair of events actually. Vox Days Ticino, which is in Lugano, the Italian part of Switzerland, and then we had a quick weekend's tour through the beautiful, beautiful Swiss Alps. Went to just amazing little villages and lots of trains, and yeah, it's just great. And now I'm here at CERN, and it's amazing, good fun, amazing. CERN is famous for smashing particles together at super high speeds in its Large Hadron Collider, the world's largest particle collider, which smashes particles together to disperse or integrate their energies. And this got me thinking about collisions, about integrations, and about integrations in particular of another sort, community and architecture. Community is super important to me. I spend a lot of time working with the Spring community. For Spring's not just a framework for building applications, it's a framework for building frameworks, which is what makes it so darned versatile and useful. People embrace Spring for their vertical frameworks to address particular problem-specific use cases. So you see this in, for example, Spring Security, Spring Batch, Spring Data, Spring Integration, and frameworks across the ecosystem to address particular, specific use cases, right? Like MyBetas, like the Kotlin exposed mapper, like Apache Camel, like JHipster, and of course, like today's subject, the Axon Framework. Now, Axon was created by my friend Allard Buijze in the late 2000s. I don't know when exactly, 2009, I guess, 2008 maybe. And he and I have had a long friendship. I've had the privilege of even becoming an occasional contributor to his amazing framework. And when I say his, I mean obviously he started it, but it's now a whole company. He and his amazing team have since built up a company to enhance Axon and to provide infrastructure to support it. So I was thrilled when he asked me if I'd be willing to do a keynote address with him. I really wanted to do something with him. We've talked about it for years to introduce some of the latest and greatest support in the Axon framework at their tentpole conference last year. What you're going to see today is a replay of that event, which brings us to architecture and the answer to the question, what is Axon? Axon is a CQRS framework. CQRS is a design pattern that recognizes that there's a useful difference between how a system should communicate reads versus writes, and it provides an explicit mapping or modeling or an explicit way to describe those differences, commands, and queries. The benefit of this architecture is that you can build a system that has writes and provides an explicit way to describe them. And it provides an explicit mechanism for changes to the state of the system and a fast mechanism for resolving queries related to the state of that system. It was developed by Greg Young, who I think he once said used it to build a system that handled trading in the Canadian stock market that at one point was handling some non-trivial percent. I want to say 10%, but I could be wrong. Whatever, even if it was 1%, imagine building some software that handled 1% of a whole country's market, transactions on a given day. So how do you scale up a system like that to handle that kind of load while ensuring consistency? CQRS is how. CQRS pairs really nicely with other patterns about which I'm sure you've heard, things like event sourcing, the idea that my system's state can be described in terms of the events that have passed through it, and that if you want to recreate that state, you simply need to reprocess those same events in the same order to do so. It also pairs nicely with a saga pattern, which is the idea that I can ensure consistent state by providing and describing actions and their compensatory actions in a sort of state machine. Sound a little vague? Sound a little much? Well, yeah, it can be a bit daunting, and it begs for clarification and for infrastructure, hence the Axon Framework. All this stuff I just described is the purview of Axon Framework and the infrastructure, including the Axonic server and the company Axonic that's behind it. So today's Spring Tips is a little different in that it's a replay of a live event, but But honestly, friends, I feel like this is the best version of this talk that I've given. And Allard and I have long talked about collaborating in a video, and now we can say we have. Once you're done watching, don't forget to check out the Axon Framework here, and then check out, of course, AxonIQ, the company whose services, consulting, and middleware make Axon and the community amazing. And of course, if you want to watch all the other great content from the AxonIQ conference, check out their YouTube channel here. All right, my friends, buckle up and let's get started on our journey to production with the Axon Framework.
Good morning. Many thanks for the editor of the video to add that. It was funny when I saw it the first time. Welcome to AxonIQ Conference 2023. I had to cheat and check the date because I'm kind of lost what day of the week it is or whatsoever. So, probably many of you were here yesterday as well. Can I see a short show of hands who was here yesterday? I hope you really enjoyed yesterday. It was, I noticed in the evening, it was kind of a mental strain on me, and I was completely exhausted in the evening. But you'd expect then to sleep as a baby, but I was so excited about today as well that it was really difficult to get proper sleep. And I hope you're excited too about today. And probably many of you got up really early this morning. Some people traveling from not so far that think, well, I can do this from home. I do know that some of you have actually traveled very far. Now, there's one person from Singapore in the room. And remember Singapore, though. It will come back later on. Because we don't have one, but two attendees from Singapore. But we'll see that in a second. So, welcome to beautiful Amsterdam. And I was sent this picture and I thought, wow, this is a cool location. I have a little challenge for you. For those spending the weekend in Amsterdam, anyone? Thought, hey, yeah, see? It's a little trick we do with the conference dates. Put it close to the weekend so you can tell your boss, hey, I can stay over for the weekend. If you find the place where this picture was taken, please take another picture and send it to us. But two more useful things. Before we start the day. Those of you who were here last year know that we use an app called Wova, I guess, how do you pronounce the thing? And it's an app that basically enhances your experience for the day, right? It is not just a nice app as a gimmick where you can see the schedule, but we'll also use it for Q&A. And you can also use it to find other people that you maybe want to talk to about certain topics or what to do in the weekend here in Amsterdam or where do you think that particular picture was taken. So if you have not installed it yet, please do so. You can use the QR code to find it. And you can just log in using the email address that you use to sign up to the conference, and then you'll get access to all the information about the conference. There's a little catch, well, not a catch, I think an added bonus, if you will. You can score community points by using this app, and different activities allow you to score different points. And it might just be worth it to be one of the few people with the most points. Some of you are excluded from participation. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's not you. Right? Obviously, some people are not supposed to win. Well, welcome to Pakhuizen Zwijger, an interesting building. We are floating on top of the street right now. I think the cars run right below me. This is a cross-section of the venue. This is the grote zaal. That's Dutch for big room. We will be using this room for the orange track. So whenever you see a talk on the orange track, it is in this one. We have the ijzaal, which doesn't translate to English. It remains the I room, I guess, which is upstairs. You can follow the stairs upstairs, and that is where we have the green track, which we've colored blue. I say we, it was them, but anyway. So I was ready to get my eyes tested, but it's yeah, that's the way it works. And then we have the foyer, which is right there next to the coffee. You can't have missed it, which is where we have the foyer. Of course, there's coffee, there will be lunch, and everything else is going to be there. And there's two other things there, and I would like to thank Lemon and Holisticon. Can we see a brief show of hands? Where's Lemon? You're awake, you made it. So when you talk to these guys, ask them how short their night was. And where's a full hand? Well, that's decent. Holisticon? All right. Now, these are not just sponsors, and they're just here to show off and well, they're here to do cool stuff, obviously. But these are partners that love to work with Axon on different projects, have seen different cases and situations where it has been implemented. And if you just want to hear their experiences or share yours with them, they are really good people to have that conversation with. Right? They're not scary. They're not trying to get all the money out of your pocket or recruit you, or well, they might, but they're here to just have good conversations with all of you. So please, go to their booths and don't be afraid. And then, of course, we have the way that always works at Axonic conference, we always have a jam-packed schedule, and at the end of the day, we thought we shouldn't have put that last talk in. That was just too much. So if we get complaints about it was too much on that day, we're kind of happy because we tried to get in just a little bit too much every time. This is the schedule for the morning. I'm not going to go through the entire schedule, but as you can see, there is obviously an orange and a green track. By the way, for who is this green? Who's on team blue? Thank you. And then in the afternoon, we kick off with another keynote. Sarah is going to do some really dangerous stuff with Milan on stage. I really hope they both make it alive of that stage, but something's going to die. And at the end, we'll have another keynote where I'll be happily taking the stage again. But, oh yeah, there's a small change for those, I almost forgot. A small change on the schedule for those that were looking at the website. Unfortunately, Wendy Wilson had there's some unfortunate events on the other side of the Atlantic, and she wasn't able to make the hop across, so she won't be here, unfortunately, to tell us about her journey to strangle the monolith. So we'll have to wait for that story another time. And we have moved Leon and Michael to the grote zaal, and we'll leave that space open. And what happens when you get an open space in your agenda? You organize an open space. So there will be an open space. You can just go there and talk about whatever you did not finish yesterday or whatever you want to talk about. But first things first, the keynote. I mentioned Singapore. Now, something really interesting happened. So we were planning this session with Josh Long, and he was getting ready to prepare all the flights and everything. And unfortunately, he had to do a presentation in Singapore as well. And unfortunately, physics tells us if you want to travel from A to B, you must meet, or you must be physically in the infinite number of points in between A and B. And even though it takes an infinite small amount of time to get from every small point to the next, doing that infinitely, it still adds up. It takes a few hours. And if your previous talk was half an hour ago, we couldn't find a flight that fit in that half an hour to get him here. But that doesn't mean it's not possible to get him here. And actually, I've been looking at him for quite a while, but maybe we can get him on the big screen. There he is. Good morning.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to AxonIQ Conference.
Hi, my friend.
Good. So,
thank you. So good to be here, or there.
So this is basically, where are you? Okay, I have to look that way because
I'm in a, oh yeah. I'm in a conference, they got me a room just so I could do this. I'm in Singapore, and I wish I could be there. Obviously, two of my favorite places on, almost diametric opposite sides of the planet. But
hey, you're here,
spirit.
right? And I guess this is really, I mean, we've been, we've known each other for quite a while now. We actually went last week or 2 weeks ago, we tried to find the exact date where this started.
Yeah.
Well, we know when the document came out, when the publication was made, but when the interview happened, we don't quite exactly remember. But it was around March 2010.
Yeah.
And we've actually physically hardly ever met. Right? It happened a few times, we bump into each other, maybe a dozen times. But most of our sessions are like this.
13 years.
Over 13 years, that's not quite a lot, is it?
No.
But yeah, without further ado, maybe you want to kick it off.
Yes,
does anyone not know Josh?
The reason this is fun for me, and the reason this is interesting for me, is because obviously, like you just said, we have known each other for eternity, and we've been friends for eternity. And I love what you're doing around Axon. Obviously, I've been a big fan for forever. And you talked about that interview, right? First of all, this year on the Spring team, we're celebrating 20 years of Spring. And we're celebrating 10 years of Spring Boot. So, if you don't know the difference, hey, that's pretty common. A lot of people don't know that there's a thing before Spring Boot that was called Spring. And we celebrate, so that you probably remember, a lot of, I don't know how many other people will remember, their Spring Framework. That came out, early access builds came out in 2003. And of course, then 10 years later, we had 2013, we had early access builds of Spring Boot. So we're talking about 10 years of Spring Boot since the early access and 20 years since the early access for Spring Framework. And there's this great little game you can play here to celebrate, the sort of evolution of the technology. It's spring1.io, history of Spring, and you can play it out and all that kind of stuff. And actually, if you go back a little bit, let me just go back. Go faster, guy. Go faster. Run. Okay, so go back. I went too fast. Going down to the ground. Here we go. There we go. Spring integration. This is 4.0 in 2014, but I've got a background in Spring integration. I love messaging. I love event-driven architecture. I love all that kind of stuff. And so I'm always looking for new sort of opportunities to expand my repertoire, as it were, right? And for a long time, I was an editor on the Java channel over at InfoQ, right? A news portal. And so there's this new thing that came out in 2010, and this guy named Allard was creating this thing called Axon to support CQRS, which is a framework that I think more people, even in 2010, need to know, right? This is 2010. They need to know about this pattern. It makes a lot of sense in 2010's world. Today, it's a requirement. I cannot imagine building anything serious in a distributed systems context, in a microservices context, without something like CQRS and without something like Axon. Now, so I interviewed you, right? We talked. I remember this discussion you and I had. Look at that. 2010, March 24th, 2010. That's when the article came out. And so that's after we had recorded the interview and the discussion, and after it had been edited, and my incredible sloppy grammar mistakes were mostly fixed. I suppose there might be some still here. But we talked about CQRS back in 2010, 13 plus odd years ago. And it's just pretty amazing, my friend. It's pretty amazing to see how much of what you spoke about back then has now become, the way it is. It's just been such a prophetic, wonderful thing to see. And so when you talk about the history of Spring, You cannot have that discussion without the history of the ecosystem of which you and your company and your technologies have just become this, immeasurably important part. And I'm just so honored and grateful for you and for a chance to work with you over the years. And we've done a lot of cool stuff together too. I think I bored him to sleep.
No, you didn't. I was waiting.
Okay.
So there's a few things that we've done, and this is always, if you get an opportunity to pair program with Josh, it is really interesting to do because he has a really different way of looking at frameworks, right? He looks at the usability and the ease of use. And it's not crazy, he's a developer advocate for Spring Boot. He wants to make it simple. And so at some point he asked me, hey, we should do a webinar on Axon Framework, right? We'll do a webinar together and we'll do live coding because nothing else exists than live coding, right? If you're Josh Long, there's no PowerPoint, there's a keynote, what's all of that stuff, right? So he said, okay, show me how you build an Axon application. I said, oh, whoa. There's a lot of things you need to configure, right? You have to have your event store and you need to configure the thing, right? You have to have a command bus. And he said, why do you need to configure all that? Well, because you need it. So? That's not an excuse, is it? So he said, okay, let's do it just once more and then never ever do it again. And we'll call that thing auto configuration. Does anyone not know Spring Boot auto configuration? One person. Anyone else trying to not admit they don't know Spring Boot auto configuration? Yes, finally. So
get him out of here. I'm just kidding.
Step one of learning is admitting you don't know something, right? That's where the beauty starts. So Spring Boot auto configuration is magic. No, it's not. It's not magic at all, but it may look like magic. It is based on the elements we can find in your code. Basically, we look at what dependencies do you have, what components have you defined in your application, and based on that, we can make a lot of assumptions, right? And I say we in the Spring Boot Axon world, you can make assumptions. Oh, if you have a JDBC connection, you probably want to connect to a database. So why don't we set everything up for you, right? If there's an If there's an Axon server connector, you probably want to use it to connect. So why don't we set everything up? If we find an aggregate in your code, why don't we set up a wiring, et cetera, et cetera? So you want to take it off from here?
Yeah. Well, so in that vein, there, Spring is a framework. We try and fill out sort of the boring stuff so that you don't have to worry about it, and we provide extension planes, hooks that ecosystem libraries and projects and so on can integrate with. So Axon Framework, being a framework built on top of Spring Boot, hopefully, if we've done our jobs right, they benefit from it, right? There's a symbiosis there. Spring is more valuable for the presence of something like Axon, and Axon gets more lift by leveraging those levers, by manipulating those knobs and levers. So it's just a really good situation. So today I was hoping, my friend, maybe we could take a little stroll through what it looks like to build a modern application using some of the latest and greatest in the Spring and Axon ecosystems together. And I know how to do this, but obviously you're a far sight better at this than I am. So I think I've got it right. Maybe I'm sure I'll learn some stuff, but maybe we could write some code together and we could look at some of the ways that Spring and Axon just play really nicely together. How about that?
Do you think you can do that in such a short time?
How long do we have?
You type fast, but that fast?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, depends. Do we have 2 minutes or do we have 20?
Well, why don't you show us?
Okay, let's try. Okay, so what we're going to do, as we always do, my friends, we're going to go to my second favorite place on the internet. Obviously, my first favorite place has always been production. I love production, but my second favorite place, of course, is the Spring Initializer. And what we're going to do is we're going to start a brand new project. Friends, the default these days is Gradle, but we're going to be using Java 21, the just released Java 21. So while there might be 4 radio boxes down here, you've only got 2 valid choices. You see, to use Spring Framework 6 and Spring Boot 3.0 or later, you need to use Java 17 or later. So these other 2 radio boxes, these are just for the memes, just for the lulz, just to find out who makes terrible life decisions. You should never, ever, ever select Java 11 or 8 These are completely inappropriate in all circumstances. So I'm not going to choose those. I would never choose those. And you need to understand that today's Java is technically superior in every way. It's faster, more robust, more syntax rich, more elegant, more secure, more operations friendly. It's also morally superior. You won't like the look of sadness and shame in your children's eyes when they find out that you're using Java 8 in production. Don't do it. Be the change you want to see in the world. Do the right thing. And just judging purely by the version number alone, my friends, I think we can all agree that Java 21 is almost 3 times as good as Java 8. I mean, the math doesn't lie.
Should
right?
we do a show of hands?
Yes.
Yes? Who's on Java 8? Whoa. 3 people admit.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to use Java 21, which is already, by the way, very old. Java 8 came out on the 19th of this month, so it's almost a week and 2 days old. It's in the distant past, but nonetheless, it's the latest one that's GA, so we'll use that. We have a choice of what I want to take advantage of some amazing features in Java 21, including virtual threads. So I'll use Spring Boot 3.20 M3, the milestone 3, for the 3.2 line. The GA version will be in November of this year, okay? And we're just going to build a new service. We're going to call this Axon service Axon service. And the reason we're going to do that is because I'm really good with names. I'm great with names. I get that from my dad. My dad was also great with names. When I was a boy, we had a small white dog, and my father named him White Dog. Now, this dog was with us for like 10 years, but then he disappeared. I don't know what happened to him. Maybe he got a job. Who knows? But anyway, another small white dog showed up at our front door looking for a home until we took him in, and my father named him Two. Now, I'm not sure if that's TWO or TOO, but either way, great with names, really great. And I've always thought that I got that from him as well. But my mom, she tells me all the time, she says, "You're very lucky that I named you." And yeah, I suppose that's probably true. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and build a new application. We're going to use the native image support. We're going to use test containers. We're going to use Postgres. We're going to use the web support. We're going to bring in the Spring Boot actuator, and we're going to bring in the Spring JDBC support. Okay, so this is all pretty stock standard stuff, right? GraalVM. Oh, we also want dev tools, right? I want to move as quickly as possible. So go ahead and hit generate, and we're going to open this up in the IDE. There's that. I'll let that load. Drink some water. All right. So first things first, we need the Axon dependencies, right? So let's go ahead and get those sorted. I've got this little cheat sheet over here, so I can grab that. Okay, script. Okay, voila, there's this. We're just going to grab these nice dependencies. These are snapshots, Allard. Like, we're really on the cutting edge here. You didn't change anything overnight or anything, right? Like, we're live,
Steven, did we change anything overnight? You sure?
Oh, how come you don't know? Nerve-wracking. We're going to add the right snapshots dependency here. We live on the edge. That's the nature of open source. You're always either having a lot of fun or cutting yourself. Either way, it's kind of cool to see it all come together when it works, though, isn't it? Okay, so we've got the Axon Spring Boot starter. We've got the observability support with Axon Micrometer. We've got the test support, which we'll see very shortly, and of course, we've got the experimental AOT support. Okay, so we've got our brand new application. And, this is our public static void main application right here. But I want to live that git clone run lifestyle. I want to be able to take the code, git clone it, and start working on it. I don't want to have 1,000 easy steps to start development. I don't want to have to stand up a bunch of other stuff. And so there's test container support and Docker Compose support in Spring Boot. And since we opted for test container support, it already created a test application server, test Axon servers application, right? And you can see there, it's got a public static void main, but this code lives in my test hierarchy. It's in source test Java bootable Axon service. And what I want to do is, I'm going to use test containers, which is a Java API to spin up a Postgres instance. I also want to spin up an Axon server. Okay, so I'll use Axon server container. This is a new thing, right? That I think you did pretty recently. Is that true?
Yes,
Let's see here.
I don't remember which version, but it was not too long ago.
There it is. Okay, IntelliJ's waking up. Good. Okay, there we are. So we're going to say return new Axon server container, Docker image parse axonic Axon server, and then it's it's latest dev, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to put that in there, and I want this bean, I want this service, I want this Axon service to be. I want to automatically connect to it, right? I can let Spring Boot automatically sort of derive the credentials for both Postgres and for this Axon server. That's what this @service connection annotation is. But the other thing is I'm going to be using dev tools. And the core idea behind dev tools is as I make changes, I just recompile the code and I see those changes basically instantly, right? I don't want to have to restart the whole application because again, when I restart the application using the test class, it's going to restart these Docker images, right? So I'd rather just keep those things running, but restart the Spring application context. And so to support that, but also to avoid having to restart all this, I'm going to use the restart scope annotation for both of these dependencies here, okay? So there we go. There's our basic harness. We're going to go here, Maven W, Spring Boot test run. So you know about run. This is test run. We're going to run the main method in the test code. And it's just going to be in the background. You can see this will take a little while, right? It's actually downloading maybe potentially a Docker image. And if it's already cached, it's running it. It's got to wait for those things to spin up. So Postgres, it created Postgres. You can see that. It's got the credentials for that. It's creating a JDBC URL for that. Same thing for Axon server. All that stuff has to happen. So in this case, because it did all that stuff with Docker, it took 17 seconds. But again, that's a one-time upfront cost. Okay. So now we've got our application, and it's a CQRS application, right? So we're going to do things nice and clean. The first thing I think is, I think you and I both like to start from the outside in. Is that true?
I love it. Yep.
Yeah.
First, you have to think about what does my application do, right? I mean, what's the behavior of the application?
Yeah. So what kind of domain should we use?
Why don't we organize a conference?
Oh, I mean, okay, sure. Yeah.
I can't think of anything else. My brain is like...
Okay, so we'll create a controller here. Conference controller. This is the HTTP endpoint here. And let's see. We're going to start by creating conferences. Okay, so string name, string ID. And we need to send a command, don't we? So we'll say private command gateway. Gateway, come on. I have to, come on, IntelliJ. Are you asleep today? What's going on? Is this going to make me type everything? I was kind of hoping, look at that. I had to like give it the clue what to do. Okay, so the root of this controller, I think request mapping, conferences, like so, very good. And then we've got this write method. That'll be an HTTP post because we're creating a write. And I'm going to say send command. And what should the command be? I guess create conference. Okay, command, string ID, string name, voila. And we'll say send new create conference command. Okay, and then we'll pass in ID and name. And these are, of course, request params. Okay, voila. Param. Okay, so there we go. We've got this nice little... we're sending a command into the framework. It's going to get routed. And what's going to happen next? Well, I guess we, at this point, we need to create the aggregate, don't we then? So we'll say static class conference aggregate. Okay, and we'll say aggregate identifier string ID. Whoops. Okay, and this will be an aggregate object. By the way, I love your use of annotations in the framework.
You'll have to make that one public, and I sincerely apologize. I know it's a shame to make classes public, but...
Well, whatever, it works. I love your use of, I love the sort of, all these little, you've got these great integrations all throughout the code base with Spring, right? And so, for example, @aggregate is a stereotype annotation in the UML sense. It's documentational. And so it's meta annotated with that component, which means it's a Spring Bean, and its lifecycle is controlled by the scope. So there's a new one whenever you create one, right? I just love it. It's just, it's so documentationally, notionally, it's very clear what this code will do. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to have an event, a command handler, okay, for the constructor here. Create that ID, and we're going to take the command that was just created, right? Create conference command, CC, and we're going to create an event. We're going to apply an event as a result of that, right? And so that gets us to the next part, which is the event. So, and by the way, notice I'm using records here. I love records. Records are a very simple idea in Java 17 and later, which is basically that the identity of the class is tied to the components of the class, right? And it just means that you get a lot of nice things, including toString equals hash code, constructors, getters for all the fields, all that you just get for free. But now, taken together with Java 21, you also get things like pattern matching. Okay, so did you know you could do this? I don't know if people know this now. Let's just see Java 21. We'll do a quick digression here. Did you know if I have a CCC, okay, new create conference command, whatever, ID one, whatever, name, okay? Did you know you could do if CCC instance of create conference command var ID var name, right? I can now, the ID is ID and the name is name, right? So you want to work with small messages and event-driven sort of stuff in the Axon world, and Java wants you to do that too. The language is making it easier to extract out, to hoist ad hoc data messages that are being sent across the wire and work with them more interactively, more naturally through data-oriented programming, right? Data-oriented programming. That's this new paradigm that Java 1 supports. Here, I'm using an instance of, obviously the compiler, it knows that I just created it right here. So of course, it's an instance of that. But imagine you get an unknown instance of this and you want to test it. The other thing you can do is you can do switches, right? So let's say I want to do a message, right? So message, and let's say it's just an object, okay? So switch object. I can do smart switches now. I can say switch on this, and if it's an instance of like that, and I can use the same kind of pattern matching. Look at that. Java 21 is neat, okay? Then I can say return this message. So here we go. Very good. So now I've got this. Okay. So now I'm actually able to create the message by looking at the types. And of course, if I have a known set of types, like with an enum or with field types, then the compiler will do exhaustion checking. It'll make sure I've covered all possible cases. Here, it's saying I didn't cover all possible cases. So, I can throw an exception or, whatever. I can be very sure that I've got the right state in my code, right? Okay, so this is all Java 21, data-oriented programming. And so let's see, back to our regular scheduled program here. I'm going to create an event record, create a conference created event, and I'm going to have the ID, string name, and we're going to say new, come on, Josh, you can do this. New conference created event, CCC.id and CCC.name. Very good. Okay. And IntelliJ, you gonna help me out? Come on, buddy. There we go. Look at that. Okay. What did I just do? There we go. Import that, please. Okay. So what's gonna happen there? Well, I'm gonna now have an event handler, aren't I? Do I use the event sourcing handler? What do you think? Is it just this one? We'll just do that one. So I'm gonna say handle the event, create conference created event. Okay.
Maybe some people here don't know that, but there's actually technically no difference between an event sourcing handler in Axon and an event handler.
Ah, okay, well.
So for those of you who think this is a bug, it's actually not, right? It's just stereotyping. Yeah. It's just being more explicit. Yeah. And do we want to be more or less explicit?
You're right. Okay, fine. I'll use that event sourcing handler. Okay, what do you think? Does that look pretty good to you? That's pretty. I'm initializing the aggregate whenever an event is published. I'm taking the command, I'm publishing an event. That's actually doing a round trip to the Axon server, which is running in the background because of our test container integration. And then it's coming back here. So this is already, it's got the wiring and the plumbing of a distributed system, even though I'm just doing everything in the same code base. Isn't that nice? I love that. Okay, so that's the write operation, but obviously I'm going to want to read the data, right? And so let's also I can return a completable future of string, right? So I'll return that. Very good. Okay, I'm going to want to read the data. And so the next thing I would logically do is I'll create a get, right? And here I'm going to return a completable future of list of string, okay? And I'll say read. Okay, and I'm going to send another request, but this time not to the command gateway, but to the query gateway. So query gateway, queries. IntelliJ is slow today. I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, I'm usually the slow part of this process, but
maybe they did an
IntelliJ
update last night.
Oh no. Okay, so query, and I'm going to send. What do you want to call the query name? All conferences, I guess, or something that. Can I just say conferences? Is that like kosher? I don't know. Does that work? Okay, let's see. Send null. No, that doesn't feel right, does it? I want all conferences. There you go. Okay, and what kind of data do I want back? I want response types of multiple instances of conference. Okay, so now I'm sending a query into the system, but I don't have a type here. I don't have a way to respond yet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a view of the data. I want some place that is keeping track of the commands that are being published and using that to build up a representation. And you can do this in any data store. And obviously Spring is really great here because we have the Spring Data Project, which has integrations with, half a dozen or more different SQL and NoSQL data stores in the core project. And then there's another dozen or so in the ecosystem, things like, Azure Cosmos DB or Google Cloud Spanner or whatever. All these things lend themselves to persistence at scale. But in our case, we're just going to use Postgres. Postgres is pretty amazing. So let's go ahead and create yet another entity here. Okay, record conference. And this is going to be the thing. And it's just going to be a representation of the data. Okay, there we go. Get that. Let's see. Queries.query. List of string.
Should be a list of conference.
What did I? List of conference. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, good. Okay, so that's our updated code. We're going to use this thing right here to actually, somebody needs to listen for that event and then write things to the database, right? We already used the event one time to initialize the aggregate, but now conceptually this could be another service, right? You don't necessarily have to do all this in the same code base, but conceptually we're going to have another thing that's going to listen for that event and then update a SQL table, for example. Okay, but that's not the store of record. The commands are the store of record. We're just going to use something to store a particular view of the data that we can query, in the way that we want. Okay, so we're going to say static class conference projection. Okay, and here's just our Spring Bean. Nothing special about that. I'm going to create an event handler, which is going to handle the conference created event. And I'm going to write to the database. But of course, we're using Spring Framework 6.1 and Spring Boot 3.2. So we have access to this new JDBC client, right? JDBC client. This new JDBC client is an answer to the question that people often ask, which is, hey, I like the JDBC template. And by the way, show of hands, how many of you have used the JDBC template? I know Allard and I have, both deep love for that thing because it was the gateway for a lot of people who wanted to learn Spring and get Spring into their organization 20 years ago. It's such a useful little library by itself.
It's just a few. It's surprisingly low. Who's hooked to ORMs? Who's using Hibernate?
Oh dear.
Oh no, you don't want to see this, Josh. This is
no, I don't.
Disappointing.
Moving on.
Even more disappointing than the people using Java 8.
Oh,
we'll get that fixed.
Okay, well,
show them how easy it is. Yeah.
Yeah, easy enough. So I'm going to use the JDBC template. I could use the JDBC template. It's fine. But sometimes people want a fluid DSL. So I'll use the JDBC client. This is new in Spring Framework 6.1. Okay, so I'll say, and by the way, did you know we have multi-line strings now? The future is amazing. So I'll say insert into conference ID name values like that. Okay, and I'll say SQL, and then the parameters are, of course, the ID, okay, and then the name, okay, and then we're just going to do update. Okay, very good. So I'm going to run the query. Of course, we don't have a database yet, right? We've got the Postgres instance, but we need SQL. So I am going to create some schema here. Okay, so schema.sql. And, again, I've got my little cheat sheet here. So I don't have to remember all this stuff. We also want to keep track of the messages, as they're being processed. I want to keep track of them locally and make sure that if I missed anything, I can resume when the service is available again. So I've got this table called token entry. That's for Axon. I've also got this thing, conference. That's for me. That's where I'm going to store these objects here. Okay, so we want to tell Spring Boot to automatically initialize the application when it starts up. So we'll say SQL init mode equals always, as opposed to just embedded, right? Which is good for H2 or Derby or whatever. So we'll say always. We've got the the thing. It's going to run. It'll be initialized. This is going to get run when we get this event. And then now I want to satisfy that query. I want to say query handler, right? So here I'll say list of conference. So this is actually I guess we could be very simple about it. Again, segmentation between reads and writes, right? So I'll do this. I'll say return this.SQL and var SQL select all from conference. Very good, very clean. SQL dot query, and here I'm going to transform each record that I get back into this object of ours, the DTO, the carrier for that. So new conference, okay, passing in rs.getString and rs.getString name, and then we're just going to create a list out of it. Ta-da! There, we're done. Now we have this nice sort of view of the data, and we can query it and so on. And this is when the request comes in for a query called all conferences, which is what we had before, right? That's what we specified way back over here. When that request for that query comes in, it gets routed to this query handler, which is going to then invoke the JDBC client. Now, obviously, in a more clean program, you might like move this query stuff into like a repository implementation or something, but I don't care. It's, simple enough. Okay.
Before you move on, Josh, can I ask you to? I have to make a small confession.
Yes, sir.
We've made a little mistake in the past, and that past is back in 2010, more or less, and we chose XML as the default serialization format.
Oh, right. We have to choose the object encoder and the serialization.
Can we switch that to JSON and just feel better?
Yeah, Axon. Yeah, there you go. So Jackson for this, right? Good point. And then we need to configure the object mapper from Jackson as well. So we'll say initializing bean. And by the way, don't feel too bad, buddy. It's 2010. That was pretty in vogue, and at least it's not YAML, right? There's always
there were rough
really
times,
grateful.
right? 2010 was like the rough days. We had to deal with XML.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We want
me activate
forever.
And JSON object. There you go. Traveling object. There we go. So what does that do exactly? What is this buying me? This line right here.
I wonder if anyone knows, but no, this makes sure that because we're going to request a list of something, right? And then if you don't put the JSON typing in, then on the receiving side, we don't know what that list has, which is kind of tricky, and there's a lot of historical nuances in there. But this is a way to basically tell Jackson, when you serialize an object and there's a potential Java object in there and you don't know what type it is, just add a little property to describe what type it was that was in that list. Right.
I love this. Okay. Well, I think what do you think? Does this look pretty good to you? I think we're ready to try it out.
Run it. Let's go to production.
Okay.
Your favorite place.
I can't see your thumbs up. I'm assuming it is. So Command Shift F9. Let's go do that. And then go to the command line. Curl HTTP localhost. Why did IntelliJ just bounce? Yeah, it's fine. Okay. So when I did Command Shift F9, remember that, I'm running Zoom. So I'm doing something. Is this Zoom or Slack? It's Zoom. That's why it's so much slower. But usually this is about 0.3 seconds for me for every single recompile. Okay. So now I'm going to do this. I'm going to go here. I'll say, make a call to conferences. There. Make a call to conferences. ID equals random. And name equals AxonIQ. Okay?
That's a guess.
Oh, no. X post. Sorry. Thank you. There you go. So it's giving me the IDs of the things that were inserted. And now I want to do want to get get.
Who knew you could do random?
Yeah, it's so random.
Nobody.
Okay, so.
Oh, 1, 2.
There you go. Yeah. Unix is awesome. Like, never let it be torn asunder, Mr. Windows. So here we go. We got this. We got some data. Look at that. Good stuff. It worked. Our system is up and running. But there's no doubt about that, friends. Of course it worked. This is a demo. It was going to work, right? But let's talk about some of the other things sort of beyond just the easy, elegant, auto-configured programming model that Axon and Spring Boot sort of deliver. Let's talk about some of the other sort of externalities. First of all, I'm using Java 21. You saw me rave at length about how much I loved data-oriented programming and so on. Well, obviously, there's something else looming in this discussion, something that looms over our heads when we think about this stuff. I was using the JDBC client there, and I'm using the servlet container here. And you might think, oh gosh, well, that's blocking IO. I'm not going to be able to scale, right? I've got this sort of distributed system. I'm using blocking IO. Well, in Project Loom, the virtual threads mechanism in the new version of Java 21, the now ancient version that came out 9 days ago, in that project, we have this amazing mechanism now to detect when you do blocking things and to move code that is doing blocking things off of the thread on which it's doing, so that that thread gets restored to the sort of pool of actual threads available for the Java program to use, and then put back on the thread when the blocking thing, be it input stream.read or thread.sleep or whatever, has finished, right? And this is you cannot really appreciate just how magical this is, but it's an amazingly elegant thing. So, hey, Allard, do we have like a few minutes? How long do we have, my friend?
Officially or unofficially?
Whatever, like.
Officially, we have 3 minutes.
That
should be plenty of time.
Oh. Yeah, okay, well, let's get to it. So we're going to be a little long, but we'll try. Okay, so let's just imagine, okay, I've got a simple application that starts up, and I'm going to do something here. I'm going to try launching a bunch of threads here, just so you can see this, 0 to 100, and then I'm going to map each one. I'm going to create a new virtual thread. I'll say of virtual, and it'll be an unstarted thread, new runnable, okay? And for each thread, we're going to create out of all of this, we're going to create a list. But for each thread, what I'm going to do is I'm going to inside, I'm going to give the runtime an option to yield, okay? And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to have a method here. Let's see, void, yield sleep. Okay, there we go. Just call it that, and I'll do thread.sleep 100, and then I'm going to return the time. Okay, the current thread. So I'll say return thread.currentThread.toString. Okay. So this is obviously going to do a try catch. That's why I'm extracting it out. No, I want this to be try catch. Okay. So now I've got this method, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to say sleep, and I'm going to note, I'm going to keep a track of all of the threads. Okay. New concurrent skip list set string. Very good. And I'll say observed dot add. Okay. Voila. And I'll just do that 3 times. So each time, what I'm doing is I'm sleeping, and then I'm noting the name of the thread before I sleep. Okay, so add. There you go. So now let's see what happens. Okay, and actually I'm going to then print out all of those threads when the program is done. So I've got a bunch of threads here. Var threads equals that. Okay, and I'll say for var t threads t dot start, and then join. Okay. And I'm just going to print out the observed one. So let's go ahead and Command Shift F9, restart that. When the application starts up, it's going to launch 100 threads. It's going to create enough threads that there's actually contention. How many did I put in there? 100. Okay, well, whatever. I forgot to do a filter. Here, sorry. Let me fix that here. Okay. We're going to say sleep, and we're going to give it an index. Okay, that's the index. So I'll put that in there. Index, put that in there. And then we'll say sleep index int index, okay? And we'll say return index should be 0, this, otherwise we'll just return empty. So that way we can ignore that one. It'll be deduped by the set, okay? So it's either the first one or we don't care. We're not actually sampling it. There you go. In the run of that program, it was on virtual thread 331 the entire time, right? 331. But in terms of actual threads, it got moved to different carrier threads, worker 4, worker 3, worker 8. This means that you get the sort of kind of scalability you would have gotten with non-blocking reactive IO before. You get that for free. It's actually rewriting your threads. But now this is not just the most convenient code, it's also arguably the most scalable code. So I'm using Java 21. Obviously, whenever I can, I want the runtime to handle plugging in the right kind of executors and stuff for me. So now I can do Spring threads virtual enabled equals true. And now whenever possible, Spring will plug in a virtual thread pool for me, okay? So I've got now a working application. It's using virtual threads. We're using data-oriented programming, and we're Git clone running. We got test containers, all that good stuff. I think it's time for us to talk about taking this thing to production, my friend. And as you said before, that's a it's really easy to get there now that we have all these great tools. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down this, and we're going to build an application. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to build a native image. So I'll say p native d skip tests native compile. Okay, because what I want to do is I want to build a native image using GraalVM. GraalVM is a open JDK distribution that provides some extra utilities, and basically it does an analysis of all your code. It finds the commonly used code and keeps that code in a graph, and then it throws away all the stuff that's not being used. And the resulting binary is very small. It then takes that resulting code and turns it into operating system specific and native code. And the results are amazing, truly, truly amazing. The only bummer, the only drag is that it just takes a long time. Also, a lot of RAM. The compilation takes a lot of RAM. Can you see that? That's one slack worth of RAM right there, right? That's a lot of RAM. 26 gigs of RAM. And it does take a long time. And it's actually long enough still that I've gotten to the point where I get bored easily, right? It reminds me of this old XKCD cartoon that asked the question, what is the number one program excuse for legitimately slacking off? Well, my code is compiling, right? I didn't want to understand this joke. I thought this is just the C++ people, but here we are. 2023 is a weird year. Okay, so it just takes a long time, and eventually I just hear like elevator music in my head. I get bored, and so I sit there just waiting for the code to compile, and it just takes forever. And I start to hear game show theme music or elevator music or something, and eventually I just said, "Gosh, wouldn't it be great if everybody could hear the elevator music?" So I went to Oracle. I said, "Oracle, my friends, please play elevator music during the native image compilation process." And I said, I already hear elevator music in my head while I do these sometimes long-running compilations. I'd just like everybody else to hear it too. Thank you in advance, and I appreciate your amazing work. And friends, I really do. They're doing phenomenal stuff. So I'm a big fan. And I got some great responses. This was from one of our friends over at Red Hat, Andrew Din, who's a distinguished Java engineer on the Java and GraalVM teams. And he says, can you make it this elevator music? It's a great idea, right? Great idea. This elevator, I'm not going to play it. I'm not sure if we can, but it's from the James Bond, Pierce Brosnan movie called GoldenEye in the 1990s. There's a video game for Nintendo 64, and then there's a soundtrack, and that soundtrack had some elevator music that was perfect. Somebody else said, hey, what about having beeps? That's a great idea too, right? Like my stupid microwave will make a beep or a ding sound when it's done. Why can't my compiler? That's a great idea. And then I got this one. This one is from Fabio Niephaus. He's one of my favorite doctors. He's a researcher on the GraalVM team. He says, thank you for your feature request, Josh. The problem, of course, is that playing music is just fixing the symptom, not the cause. And they're working on that. But he says, I have prototyped a -- Josh Long mode. So here's what that would look like, okay? You would run -- native image Josh Long mode, and then you'd hear music. Obviously, people, that's the whole point, right? But you'd hear elevator music, but this is a picture, and then so don't let that discount the idea that the possibility that there is music playing right now. And then it would print out music brought to you by Josh Long. But you're still waiting. You know who the music is brought to you by. You want something nice to look at. So then it would print that out, which I think that's about what you need, right? That's awesome. So anyway, I'm a big fan. I love this stuff. What were we doing? Oh, right, the compilation. Yeah, okay, there you go. So compiled, target. Okay,
it was done for ages.
We're gonna run it. Yeah, I forgot about it already. Okay, so I'm gonna start the application. This is gonna fail though, isn't it? Right? We don't have the database credentials configured. We didn't connect it to Axon and all that stuff. So just as a little bit of a cheat here, I went to the Axon directory. And I have a Docker Compose where I've got Postgres and Axon server already configured. So I'll say Docker Compose up. Okay. And it's not happy. Oh, Docker PS -A. Docker RMF. Here we go. Docker RMF. Goodbye. Just cleaning up after myself here. So Docker PS anything. Okay, Docker Compose up. Let that do its thing. Okay, it's up. Okay, I think that's ready. So now if I go to this directory, am I in the right place? Yeah. Target, Axon service. Now I need some environment credentials. Okay, so I go back to that same directory, talk, Axon, and I'm going to run the program, but I'm going to set some environment variables to connect to that server into that Postgres database. So I exported data source URL, password, etc., and I'll just do run. Sublime run.sh, and it's called Axon service, isn't it? Axon service. Axon service. Does that look right to you? Where are we? Yeah, it's Axon service. Downloads Axon service. Axon service. Okay, there we go. The application's up and running. There's the virtual threads that we just did because it pairs nicely with Java 21. Our Axon application's up and running in 0.3 seconds, right? Super fast. But more interestingly, much more interestingly for me, is the RAM footprint. So here's this, right? PS minus O RSS. That's the resonant set size. That's the RAM of the application, and it's measured in kilobytes. So take this number and divide by 100, right? So it's about 141 megabytes for a fully integrated application talking to a SQL database and to the Axon server using an amazing event-driven framework, using virtual threads, so you have much better concurrency and scalability. You can handle many, many, many more requests at the same time. And if you still can't handle as many requests as you need to with virtual threads and all that, well, that's okay. You've already just built the distributed system. This scales horizontally flawlessly. It's Axon. It's the magic of Axon, and it's already doing that right now. So you can spin up other instances and do the right thing. I think it's an amazing time to be a Java developer and to build services today. And with that, my friend, I think we did it. I think we got an application up and running and into production. What do you say?
I think we did it. What do you think? Yeah? All right.
Cool. Go team.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, my friend.
Who learned something new?
To help me throughout this coding experience. Sorry? What?
Can you ask him, who learned something new?
Who learned something new? Every single person, except.
Cool. And then who had fun?
Who had fun? Oh, that's a lot less.
Great. Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
No, okay.
It's a shame, but we'll make up for it. All right, I had fun, so I forgot to raise my hand. Yeah. All right.
Thanks. Thanks, my friend.
All right, and with that, we're a few minutes over, but there's a break. You can let all of that sink in, and it's not that much. It's only 140 megs of memory anyway. So enjoy the break, and we'll see you in the parallel sessions. Thank you.